Welcome back, story lovers. Please consider liking and subscribing. Chapter 12. In one of Marnie's many dark moments, she dreamed of a black hole of infinitely small size, sucking the human race into its bottomless depths. She awoke with a sense of doom and, in a panic, phoned her boss, Troy. She explained how Conran had suffered flea bites during an archaeological dig and had since become seriously ill. In response, Troy demanded that everyone involved in the archaeological dig be contacted and admitted to the hospital connected to the biotechnology research laboratory via an underground tunnel. She'd decided there would be no merit in explaining to Troy how she'd persuaded a doctor to permit her to be a plasma donor for Conran, hoping her neutralizing antibodies would help his fight against the new disease. This method of treatment had no provable potential, but she believed it had possibilities not seen in the lab due to the reaction of her plasma on multiple other novel viruses. From behind the glass screen and through a haze of tears, Marnie observed the battlefield and the continual activity around the 6 beds in the ward. The patients were all already sick with severe acute respiratory syndrome and receiving mechanical ventilation. It was a repeat performance and a harrowing picture she recognised from the past. Doctors, nurses, and other members of staff endeavour to keep people alive while understanding they could be the next victims in the murderous war. Under the harsh lights and from within their impenetrable shields, medical staff silently communicated and proceeded with a monotony of action and a collective determination that was as effective as sparks of light against the fires of a volcanic eruption. A nurse glanced in Marnie's direction and, blinking the sweat from her eyes, smiled sympathetically and made the sign of a heart with her hands. These people are extraordinarily brave, offering me support when they could soon be facing their final fight, Marnie thought, and smiled back with all the encouragement she could muster. Marnie heard soft footsteps, and turning swiftly, her eyes locked into Troy's, who was equally terrified. "I've contacted the WHO," he said in a hushed voice. "As we have it contained at the moment, they want us to keep it under wraps for now." "That's not the correct approach," Marnie replied anxiously. "We must learn from our previous mistakes. Governments need pushing to prevent their urge to hibernate until it's out of control. We will be better prepared this time, and have the capacity to treat thousands at the same time," Troy reassured. "They will need to consider all the factors: isolation, mental health, and job losses. It can't be how it was before." Tears flooded down Marnie's cheeks, but she left them to dry, not wanting to touch her face with her hands. "We can't absorb the slaughter of another generation." Troy gently rested his hand on Marnie's shoulder. "You have my word. I will keep at them. We are carrying out rigorous contact tracing." "He didn't want any fuss," she said, glancing over at Conran's bed, where he lay unmoving in the air-controlled room where the only sound was the hum of machines and the rustle of plastic gowns. "I've never met anyone with such an appetite for life," she sighed wistfully. "I don't want him to be a tragic death statistic and hear stories of medics working tirelessly just for them all to die." Troy pulled Marnie into his arms. Cry as much as you can. It's been a hard road for us all. As a recovered patient, I also fear an invasion. He can't see me or hear me, and the lack of human contact is unbearable. I just want to hold his hand," Marnie said, sobbing. "Remember the lines of coffins?" she said, pulling away and staring up at his face, which was screwed up with anxiety. Troy nodded bleakly and, producing a tissue, lowered her mask and dabbed her cheeks. "At the moment, it does seem as though nature is set on wiping out our messy human existence. But we are more capable of going on the attack with this war," he added. "It isn't time to give up, especially now when they've given us the go-ahead to proceed with your therapy for the other viruses." Troy smiled through watery eyes. "We must be strong, dig through the layers of darkness and find the light. With your plasma, we might be, at long last, able to create a universal vaccine or treatment against these diseases. We must search the blood banks and see if anyone else possesses this rare active particle." The thought of Conran recovering was a mirage she didn't dare to walk towards, but Troy had reminded her of the high hopes she'd felt seeing her plasma destroying the enemy. For one last time, she would wrap up her emotions, put them aside, and return to the surreal, isolated world of her youth. Step back from this for a day or two. Go home and work on your research paper. I will keep you informed of progress. Marnie nodded grimly and, unable to meet the eyes and hushed whisperings of the medical staff, walked back down the corridor with her head bowed. Marnie was downcast and struggling to deny her inner turmoil when she stepped out into the popular high street. Horns blaring interrupted her heavy thinking. Looking up, she saw traffic attempting to gain inches against something blocking the road ahead. On closer observation, she realised a bus had collided with a lamppost and had come to a diagonal stop, blocking the way of any vehicles. A riotous group blocked the pavement as passengers disgorged from the bus. As Marnie approached, she saw a commotion of complaining people circulating a staggering figure. "You're wasting precious time," a well-dressed man shouted haughtily. "Some of us have important appointments to make." "We could have been killed," another added. "He's obviously drunk." The uncomfortable discord rolled around Marnie as she manoeuvred to the front of the gathering. A dishevelled-looking man with a rust-coloured beard and long hair, wearing a crumpled shirt and trousers, was supporting an old man by the arm and speaking gently. "You should come back to the bus and sit for a bit." The old man was ashen-faced, seemed disoriented, and cried with pain each time he moved. "Can't you see he is ill?" the young man shouted. "Everyone deserves some consideration. Call an ambulance." At a glance, Marnie saw people were ignoring the request and were walking away to find other ways to work. She took her phone from her jacket pocket and made the vital call. Those remaining gasped as the man fell. Marnie rushed forward to help. "Hello, is there anything I can do? I've called an ambulance," Marnie whispered low, deliberately ignoring the crowd. They regarded each other eye to eye, and Marnie felt there was something familiar about the young stranger. He smiled broadly. "I think he crashed because he is sick." "People are so uncaring. My boss insists on a very disciplined routine, so I know I've lost my job, but I'm not going to place blame on a sick man." The old man reached out desperately. Marnie took his gnarled hand in hers and was struck with lightning pity. In the midst of his trembling, his laboured breathing stopped, and he slipped into unconsciousness. At this point, the ambulance arrived and took over with their machines, trying to pump air back into the man's lungs. Marnie and the stranger rose. "What are you going to do without a job?" "I would have lost it anyway at some point. My boss is a tyrant with a temper, never pleased with anyone's efforts and never gratified by his wealth. I think it's time I found a way to make myself a millionaire on my own, as complying with others doesn't seem to be my thing." "You mean to make some good from the bad?" "Yes, that's it," he replied lightheartedly. "Have a good day, and thank you for taking the route of kindness." He turned and bounced off down the street with a lightness in his step. Thank you, story lovers, for listening to Chapter 12. You can find my books in all your favourite online stores and on Audible under EMG Wixley, or follow the links provided. See you next time.